Aloha and welcome to Honolulu to PTC'25, where I'm now joined by Doug Loewe, CEO of Kao Data. And Doug, pleasure seeing you.
Always a pleasure to be here.
All the way across 2 oceans.
Exactly.
This time.
It was a long journey. It's a 10-hour time difference, but it's 24 hours door to door to get from London to Honolulu.
Probably, in my case, it's actually more than that, but yeah, no, it's definitely worth the trip.
Absolutely.
How many PTCs have you been to so far?
I was having this conversation last night. I think it's 7 or 8. I have to go back and officially look.
Okay.
I'm not quite double digits yet.
Yeah. All right, but you're no newbie. You know your way around.
I know my way around. It is evolving, though. It seems like it's shifted up to the Halekulana, but it's also gotten very big.
Yeah.
But it's still ridiculously important. You have to be here.
Yeah, everyone is here.
Yeah.
But it's your first PTC as the CEO of Kao.
Actually, it was day one was last year.
So it's actually your second one. Because we're going to talk about your first university, but it's okay. So it's your second one.
Yes.
Well, in that case, how's the university been? Like, what's the party been like in Honolulu?
Well, it has been a great year. Our shareholders love our strategy. We are actually ahead of where we thought we'd be. We laid out and said we're going to focus on AI, cloud, and enterprise customers. Perfect, but we've had some significant success in the AI space. I mean, it's been our roots. We've been around for 10 years. An overnight success story, 10 years in the making. But this year, not only has the strategy been signed off, but the capital envelope to go execute that strategy has been fully endorsed. But what we've had is some particular success with the clouds and AI blended workloads in our home territory, in the UK.
Yeah. Well, we've seen a lot of headlines, especially with your work with NVIDIA. And all the big chipset manufacturers, so that's all very interesting. But we'll get into it in a second.
Sure.
Talking about the bigger picture of AI as well, because there's an arms race going on to build this, and we've seen it here. We're hearing about $5-6 trillion being invested over the next 10 years to make AI happen. And that's potentially very low because it's going to be way more than that. We just saw the White House this week announcing $500 billion as well, just for one company in the US alone. So when you multiply that, there's 200 countries in the world, so some will have more, some will have less. There's a big race going on.
The good word is race.
How do you paint this picture? How do you make sense of this picture to begin with? And then, as an industry person to begin with, because there's a lot for a human brain to comprehend here. There's so much information. But then, how does Kao pick that up and go and build the next phase of the business?
It's actually very, very simple. I'm still, in some respects, the conservative boy from Columbus, Ohio, despite living in Europe 30 years. One of the things we're going to do is measured, disciplined growth. We're not going to spread ourselves too thin and potentially disappoint our customers or our investors. We are very fortunate that we have a campus with data centers that are engineered for AI that exists today. And so we're able to solve either GPU type of clusters or the network nodes for the AI ecosystem and provide capacity this year. And with a clear line of sight, because every hyperscaler, but also anybody that's investing in and going to be successful in the AI space, you have to have line of sight to at least 100 megawatts. Now in the US, of course, you're seeing the gigawatt momentum, but in Europe, because it's you have to solve for data sovereignty as well as capacity. If you're able to show capacity today and a bridge over the next 2 years, not 2030, but 26 and 27, and also in 2025, you will get your more than fair share of the opportunity.
Yeah, but it's just because there was actually some conversations here that Europe does like a little bit behind, and I think it is about within that timeline they said 2-3 years behind. Is that what you're saying? Do you think what you're seeing in the US in 2 years' time in Europe, 2 or 3 years' time in Europe is really going to explode?
I actually see it's going to be in parallel, because if you hit a wall on energy, here in the United States, data sovereignty still has to happen in the AI space as much as it happens in the cloud space.
Probably even more than the cloud. Because it's nationally is filling everywhere now. It's much stronger.
And the regulatory environment is going to come into the AI space, and there's going to be an absolute requirement to solve intra-country, but it also solves simultaneously for inference, and also our investors like a distributed portfolio. They don't want to put, quote unquote, all their eggs in one basket, but they are, the market is incredibly supportive of Kao Data with its recognition that we can help solve today in Harlow, for example, our home campus, and provide that line of sight to significant capacity.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned Harlow. I mean, let's go to the UK now, because we just mentioned that the White House announced a big project, $500 billion in terms of AI investment with some of the big guys. But the UK has been doing a lot as well. I mean, Downing Street has been announcing things, billions of pounds to be deployed in the country as well. How do you see the UK playing a role in the UK arms race, in the AI arms race. Let's hope the UK doesn't go into an arms race.
Exactly,
it's AI arms race.
Yeah, exactly. Fortunately, there is a progressive understanding of the importance of that journey to be able to have AI workloads that, again, it's not cat videos in our data centers. No. It is solving for global warming, modeling, the future for how we're going to do synthetic drug trials to be able to, solve society's problems. I was really happy when the UK government designated data centers as critical national infrastructure. Yeah. A huge step forward there. But I also think there's a recognition that a lot of players, some of them not with the depth and the history of a Kao Data, put in power applications. And so we, within the United Kingdom, we're going to have to sort what we call zombie power apps, where people got in the queue and said, hey, we're going to get this power. We're not sure what we're going to use it for, but let's just grab it. Yeah. And so that needs to be detangled. Fortunately, we were able to secure power in the Harlow area, so we're fine in the short term to help our customers get to that, that 100 megawatt environment. But from a appetite and overall perspective, what the UK government needs to do is just continue to support the community by, when we need power and we need it sooner rather than later, that they can help us cut through some of the red tape. And if we do that, we'll achieve both our business objectives and also society's objectives.
Well, the core of digital infrastructure right now, it is power availability. This is now a power business. It's no longer a real estate business.
Correct.
You will buy the land wherever the power is. It's no longer we'll buy the land and I will do the rest.
Absolutely. And fortunately, we had both the power and the land in a very, very ideal location. Being in that Cambridge corridor, where it was perfect for NVIDIA to put its Cambridge One supercomputer in our data center during the pandemic, and so therefore it creates just a natural evolutionary hub to be able to layer in even more AI workloads. Yeah. And the government is very supportive, both local governments, because everybody wants to be able to be participatory in this next wave. I think some locations got a little tired of the cloud and some of the data center environments, but we're really thrilled that we're being welcomed with open arms by local and national level government, as opposed to previously it was pitchforks in the street, get away from us. But it's much more of a welcoming environment, and much more collaborative between academic, obviously government, and the private sector led by Kao Data.
There's nothing more powerful than consistency and consistently delivering.
I'm so glad you said that. One of the things that the industry really wants are folks that deliver consistently in and out, and not just delivering the actual solution on a timely basis, but when you're fitting it out for a hyperscaler, they need it to be on time. At Kao Data, we're going to embrace a little bit more of a serial approach to scaling as opposed to a parallel approach. We'll still secure land bank and incubate land and power, but we have to execute now on, frankly, the low-hanging fruit. We were fortunate enough to have the Harlow campus be ripe for accelerated expansion.
I think what you're saying kind of resonates very much with what we've been hearing here as well. 2025 is the year of also understanding what this whole AI thing means. It's, yes, we're going to build, buy, construct, M&A, all those sort of things. We're going to hit record levels, but at the same time, people seem to be taking a step back to understand what this all means. How much do we need? What applications are going to be deployed? What the use cases are like? How do you build it? How do you differentiate the healthcare customer from a financial customer to a school, to a university, to a hyperscaler? It's different levels of power consumption, different levels of GPU consumption.
Absolutely. So I think the reason there's been this slight pause before everybody goes gangbusters is we do really need to sort out the liquid to chip cooling ecosystem. What's really going to be the best way to do that? Because these assets, have to thrive for 15 to 20 years, and if you get it fundamentally wrong at the beginning, the retrofit is, we all know, is just, it can be a timing out, game over situation. So everybody's trying to make sure they feel their way. But the other thing that's being put in place is the network nodes that are going to support the AI workloads.
The wider ecosystem,
It can't just be GPUs. You've got to make sure that there is a fundamental minimum efficient scale platform network-wise to allow for when, obviously the inference becomes fully production, that you don't buckle under the, you might have this GPUs, but guess what? You don't have the genuine architecture network-wise to be able to move the workloads around. And so one of the things we're solving for right now for the initial now six plus megawatts is to make sure that the foundational network architecture is in place to support the AI workloads. That's driving that right now. And then what will come behind that, of course, is particular customization based on medical science, all the other, the financial workloads, et cetera.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we go into the capital conversation, just picking up on the redesigning of the data center almost, this year at PTC there's also been a lot more conversations around satellites, and someone pointed out that if you start looking at data center buildings, you're starting to see a lot more satellite dishes on data center buildings. What's your take on the satellite side of the sector, and how is that all going to marry together with the data center operator? This is a bit of future forward.
I'm smiling because when I was at Interaction, we had 13 locations, 13 markets, and what you basically had to do is find out if your building just happened to be in a location that could actually turn the dish and face the satellite. At this stage, we at Kao Data, we've decided that we'll work with our ecosystem partners, the fiber, the carrier community, but we don't see at this stage that there's going to be a strategic push to do satellite. Just from what's hit our radar screen now, for example, in Manchester, we're finding out not only is it a great place to build a data center, but it's really on a nice path between saturated Dublin and the continent. So we see that as being a great location to put a data center, but even that will not, the satellite, it's more of the subsea cable systems that are going to really, I think, dictate or drive where compute's placed more so than satellite.
Okay, interesting. We'll see what happens. I think it's still a few years away, but it was just something that started popping up a lot here, so I just wanted to gather your thoughts.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. One of the things that's really important, I mean, you mentioned we'll come on to the financial aspect of it, but one of the things that's really valuable about PTC, come in with your working hypothesis, but make sure you're meeting with people who will challenge you, will actually challenge conventional thinking. We just had a great conversation where it's like, okay, maybe we need to think of this route in order to scale the business, these events are a clearinghouse for being able to make sure that, hey, this is important, this is not, and how to prioritize. And that's my job and my role is to, even though people want to do exciting things with this, I'm now having to artfully say not no, but just not now, because discipline, execution, focus, consistency, your point earlier, is the driving mantra.
No, 100%. On the satellite front, it was literally just gather your thoughts because it is a few years away from happening anyway.
Well, just like small nuclear reactors. I mean, that's you need to be aware of it. But at this stage, I think where we need to have our technical team really focused on is truly understanding the liquid to chip cooling environment. That is just critical to get right.
All right. So, Doug, capital, raising, spending.
Yep.
What's the plan for Kao this year, next year? How are you going to allocate all the cash that you're going to be raising? And do tell us numbers as well.
I'm smiling because
GBP values.
I'm smiling because the thing I've enjoyed the most over the last year is being able to really understand the optionality when it comes to financing projects. Either at Topco with our shareholders. One thing that's been great is our shareholders, Infratel and Legal in General and the family office with Goldacre, they're behind us. They are lining up their ICs to be able to say, yep, what Doug and his team are doing is real. This 3.5 times in the business is not speculative. This is fulfilling customer demand. So our existing shareholders are there to be able to fund the business, which is great. However, because of that kink in the curve, what we want to explore is options. I mean, we have a great relationship with Deutsche Bank. They're our primary lender. They syndicated Bank Sabadell, and they've been fantastic as well. But what we're exploring is if we find a particular asset that has power coming on sooner rather than later. We have a path to control because it's part of our, if you will, our family of businesses that are out there. But what we can do is preserve our equity for other projects by doing a joint venture with a third-party organization. It doesn't dilute Holdco or Topco. What you have, though, is an investor that really wants to get into this space. They don't know the data center business from an operational perspective, but they fund 80% of the business. We control or are responsible for 20%, but we still maintain control. We're the operator. The customers come to us. We're overall responsible. But we're finding that this JV approach, by creating special purpose vehicles at the asset level, is creating accretive value opportunities, and it accelerates. It allows you to be able to meet customers' stringent RFS dates, and so we're doing both. We're traditional financing through our valued shareholders and our valued lenders, but we're setting up mechanisms to allow us to be able to finance multiple assets at the asset level.
From the last time we spoke last year, have you seen any major changes from the finance and investment community in terms of conversations, worries, happiness. Have you seen any major changes on how they view this sector?
I think we're seeing Darwinism, true natural selection occurring. Those that are fit and can evolve and get it and have a track record of executing, and there's a creeping, not worry is a strong word, but concern that there are some organizations that don't have the genuine knowledge of the full spectrum of obviously acquiring capital, acquiring land, acquiring the permits and all that, but also the ability to execute. And the hyperscalers will gravitate to anybody that can provide capacity in a respectable horizon, i.e. this year, next year, or 2027. But there is still, they would prefer to build it themselves, but they recognize it's going to be a blend between self-perform and going with trusted providers like a Kao Data. But what we have to do is just really make sure that the industry needs to recognize there's going to be some folks that are going to time out. They either don't have the skill set,
it's part of the game.
They're not able to attract the people, and therefore, the customers will not go with some of these providers. I don't think we're going to see a fallout per se, but you're going to see a bifurcation. You're going to see the successful operators grow, accelerate, and you're going to see some weaker ones either time out or be absorbed by others.
Yeah, and then when it comes, and then I know you need to go as well at some point, but I've got to grab your brains on everything whilst I have you.
No,
when it comes to market competition and allowing new players to come in, so startups, where do they sit in all this? Is it viable to even build a data center startup in these days? For example, if I go and launch a data center tomorrow, data center company tomorrow, is it viable in the way that things are going?
One thing, you never want to answer a question with one word, but I think the answer no is applicable here. If a pure startup at this stage, the risks in execution,
the amount of capital you need.
Actually, you know what? The capital is readily available,
Okay.
but the problem is knowing how to efficiently implement that capital is what's scarce. You just can't go and hire the talent that will do it. They're not going to go jump off a bridge onto a complete startup environment. And so if there has been a history of doing this before, great. But I think pure startups, they're just going to not be able to find the customers that are willing to take the risk and helping them with their first journey. That's why I would not have joined Kao Data if it was a startup. It was a startup 10 years ago. It has earned the right. It has solved for complex financial institutions. It helped NVIDIA deploy its supercomputer during the pandemic in 18 weeks, and it's attracted and implemented the cloud providers. So it's about scaling now. So we're a scale up, but a pure startup at this stage, I think, is not practical.
I don't think that's too distant from what I hear in some other places as well. So I just wanted to gather your thoughts on that.
No, it's always worth talking. It'll be fascinating. We see each other a year from now here again. Was there any
major
absolute disruptive organizations that just didn't move forward? You see, you had some ISG as a construction firm timed out. And so what we need to do is just make sure we're being prudent. Fortunately, is this a bubble? No. The reason it's not a bubble is we have a natural constraint. It's not capital, it's power. Your opening question to me. And because we have that natural constraint, there's still going to be pockets of probably overspend or overbuild. But if you're solving for 25, 26, and 27, and even 2028, you're fine. But if what you're doing is planting seeds now to do something in 2030, that's when I think you're going to see, I hate the word glut, but I think you're going to see potentially ridiculous amounts of capacity coming online. Maybe these workloads, the AI revolution is going to absorb it, but I think that we have to just all be cautionary. So that's why what we're focused right now is executing in the present.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Looking to the slightly longer term, so 3-5 years for Kao. What is the plan? Because of course you've got Harlow, you've got London, you've got Manchester, you've got some wider plans. So this is what you say as much as you can then.
I've been consistent and I will be consistent. We still have our 7-dot strategy. Our shareholders are very, very supportive of it. What we're doing in the short run is emphasizing scale, slightly delaying scope. But we still have now we have people on the continent, so we're not, we're dead serious about moving forward there.
Which countries?
The Netherlands and Germany, just are folks helping us pull from the continent while we push from the UK. But we are, over time, we will do Amsterdam, because Amsterdam still wants to be participatory in the AI revolution. They might have gotten a little tired of the cloud, but we're working through an interesting power paradigm, but we'll get through that.
Will cities and nations even have a choice if they're not part of it?
Correct. They will, similar to what we've done in the UK, say this is critical for our economy. We are going to invest, but it's people who know how to get it done. So we'll do Berlin and Frankfurt, we'll do Barcelona and Madrid, we'll do Amsterdam, and of course we are already, since we've started to really accelerate what we're doing in Manchester. But those 7 dots, or in those 4 countries, that's it. I'm not going to go to France. We're not going to do Greece. I'd love to do Italy, but we're not going to go to Italy. And people say, well, why don't you bring that magic that you're doing with AI workloads in the UK to the US? No, we're not going to come to the US. Our focus, our expertise is going to be centered in Europe, and even there we're not going to do the Nordics.
Yeah,
we're just focus, discipline, consistency is both in terms of operational excellence, but it's also in terms of geographic focus. The less is more, I think, applies here, because even to successfully execute our Harlow project, it's going to require $1 billion in capital. But we want to just make sure our operational team, even though my head of operations has managed over 400 megawatts, we're going to do this in a very disciplined growth manner. And when it makes sense, we'll land bank those opportunities that we've been working on in the other countries, but I am not going to do the accelerated simultaneous build-out plan, because we need to follow through on what we've already digested.
And just to be clear, it's £1 billion or $1 billion?
And this, actually, it's £1 billion.
£1 billion, okay.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a very, it's the right approach. Do it slowly, do quality over quantity.
Yeah.
But you can always go with a partnership to the Nordics, to the US. Is that part of the strategy?
No. We'll partner within the asset locations in Spain, Germany, and the
Where
Netherlands.
You're planning to go,
But we'll even do it in the UK. Because immediately after we solve for our Harlow 100 plus megawatt project, there's a project now that's moving at pace in East London, but that's a scenario where instead of having to ask our shareholders to do 2 or 3 or 4 billion, we can bring in an equity partner to solve at the asset level. So we're putting the playbook in place, executing today to be able to actually do that mechanism, because what I don't want to do is time out. I want to be able to make sure that we have a portfolio of partners that can participate at the equity and obviously at the debt level to be able to have each of these projects move. But the mindset that I think the team and the shareholders really enjoy is, think of it as more serial, not parallel. That doesn't mean we're going to wait and completely build the Harlow data center and then think about the next thing, but we want to get it threaded. We want to better make sure we're on that journey and go from there. Okay,
and then Doug, last question. Will we meet here again next year for PTC'25, the 48th annual edition of this conference? It's probably the oldest conference in the industry that we have.
Wow.
What's the one thing that you would like to happen that will make your job easier?
In some respects, I would like to be able to have some of the customers that we have solved some complex business problems be here to celebrate with them. That's important. I also would like to thank our equity and lending partners for helping us implement this 3.5x strategy of growth that we have. But I also think it's really important. I'm just hoping that this continues, because it really is a clearinghouse for new ideas, but also some great friendships that have been built over the years. So I hope it's not radically different from what it is now.
Yeah. I think what you said there with friendship, I think it's a very good way to end this, actually, because there's still a lot of camaraderie in this industry. It's not when you go to a banking conference or to a banking event or a legal one. We've been to a few, and you can tell that the relationships are different. This is still very much friends and family is probably not the right expression, but we know what I mean. You just wish you had dinner with Andy Power last night, for example. It doesn't happen that way in some other places.
Exactly, and it's genuine, it's heartfelt, because let's think about it. This AI revolution,
tremendous opportunity.
It's a privilege for us to all be participatory in it. We are in a growth industry. Obviously, we need to be bold to be able to go and capture it. We need to be agile to adjust, and we'll adjust between now and next time. But we also need to be responsible. And being responsible means working with people that you've been there, done that, build a data center, operate a data center before, and it just makes a combination of exciting, but also frankly fun.
Well, this could potentially be the fourth industrial revolution, and that's not that's not a small fit.
That's not hyperbole.
Changing humanity.
It's dead serious what's happening. That's why I'm thrilled to be able to leverage my telecoms experience, my cloud experience, my data, because this is something that's going to require us to get very creative at times to solve for this, because it is a lot of heavy lifting, but it's fun.
This is humanity changing, and that's for hundreds of years to come.
Well said.
Doug Loewe, go have some Mai Tais, probably a bit early, but go have some Mai Tais later. CEO of Kao, thanks so much for talking to me, and I'll speak to you in, I don't know, in London.
No, it's always a pleasure. I enjoy our conversations, and we'll see you next year.
No, I appreciate it. For your home, thank you for watching, and do check our website and social medias for the latest digital infrastructure news from across the globe. At the Tech Capital, you lead, we report. Mahalo.